Hello, we came to the coffee shop, which is located in the former estate, which belongs in the past to the Minister of the Internal Affairs of the Russian Empire. In 1896, Sergei Perlov, the then owner of this building, learned about the arrival of the Chancellor of the Chinese Empire in Moscow. Hoping to attract the attention of a high-ranking guest and conclude exclusive contracts for the supply of tea, he decided to rebuild his own house in an Oriental style. To the disappointment of the owner of the tea house, the Chinese Chancellor didn't make it to the house on Mysnitskaya Street. He paid a visit to other Perlovs, who lived and traded on First Mishanskaya Street. However, the businessman's efforts were not in vain. The new design of the building became the best advertisement for his products. The business flourished and developed until October 1997. This building houses a new theater, which was created in 2022. The building itself is very old and famous. This house was visited by Gogol, Pushkin, Zhukovsky. Chertkov, one of the owners of the building, turned it into a library, the first public library in Russia. He was the first to collect books dedicated to his fatherland, and he succeeded. Everything that was published in any language of the world regarding Russia turned out to be collected in Chertkov's library. It was here that Lev Tolstoy worked on his novel War and Peace. The legendary floral Chai-Pri, Red Moscow, was released in 1925. The aroma of this perfume is an interpretation of the favorite bouquet of the Empress, composed for Empress Maria Feodorovna for the 300th anniversary of the House of Romanov in 1913. When the French perfumer opened his soap factory in Moscow, things didn't start right away. First, soap was made in a former stable. The profit was meager. But one day, the perfumer decided to make souvenir soap, one type in the shape of animals, another with letters, a third in the shape of vegetables. Fathers of families happily brought such gifts from the fair to their children and wives. So we came to GUM to check the expositions here, because usually they change them according to the seasons and different holidays. But, well, we are not quite surprised. Nothing like super special, right? Right. We came to the Old English Court. Let's go. I'll show you now like the oven which was built by English guys who used this building before. And the interesting feature of this oven is that in Russia we didn't build such ovens because there shouldn't be like the space with open fire, because we usually build in another way. I don't know how to explain in English. Maybe later I will try to do it with pictures, because we will need to save the warmth in order to later, like within the night, warmth will expand across the whole house. The Russian stove not only heated the house but also performed a number of other important functions. It was possible to cook food in it, wash and iron clothes with its help. Also, such stoves have been popular in Russia since the 18th century. We call them голландки. Peter I borrowed this invention from Holland, where they began to appear in the 15th, 16th centuries. This building served as a trade office, something like a modern business center. Nobody lived here. It was convenient to store goods here, and the building was more reliable because it was made of stone, not wood. By the beginning of the 16th century, at the height of the Age of Discovery, the world's main trade routes went through the Atlantic Ocean to America, India, and China. The routes were controlled by the Spaniards and Portuguese. In such conditions, English navigators were left to look for roundabout routes to overseas reaches, avoiding open confrontation with the main maritime powers. Thus, the British ended up in Russia. In January 1554, Richard Chancellor appeared in the Kremlin before the young Russian Tsar, Ivan IV, who would later be called the Terrible. Richard Chancellor stayed in Moscow for 8 months. Ivan IV's subjects of the English crown the right to duty-free trade in Russian cities. London immediately responded to the generous offer. The Moscow Joint Stock Trading Company was founded in 1555. Already in 1556, Ivan I granted the Moscow Joint Stock Trading Company an empty merchant estate in Zaryadye. Thus, the English court appeared in Moscow.